Morning folks, it's Mark here. This is a second mental health vlog. It's a cold, damp, dreary morning here in Reading in the southeast of England, so wherever you are in the world I hope it's a little bit nicer weather for you. I hope you're fit and healthy and well. I'm going to be talking in this video a little bit about obsessive behaviour and the kind of obsessive behaviours that I have that go along, I think, with my dissociative disorder. Obviously my first mental health vlog was all about my assessment at the mental health hospital and about being diagnosed with dissociative disorder. I'll put a link on this video to my first video in case you haven't seen it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about obsessive behaviour, but first of all I'd like to say a massive thank you to all of the people who have responded so kindly and generously to my first video and sent me messages of support and encouraging words. You know, I wasn't expecting it. When I made the video, I didn't think many people would watch it. Not a great many people watch my videos anyway, so I wasn't sure what kind of response it would get. But it's had a wonderful, the first video's had a wonderful response, and lots of people have sent me very kind and encouraging words. I've been it's been overwhelmed by the support of some people that I used to go to school with that I haven't seen since I left school, and the support of complete strangers who have never met me or spoken to me or anything. So if you are somebody who's watched the first video and sent me a message of support, thank you. Really, genuinely thank you. It's meant a lot to me. So anyway, obsessive behaviour. I have some obsessive behaviours. They don't cause me a huge amount of problem, but they have been escalating, I guess, over the last couple of years. I have quite a number. I do things like, if I've got some money in my pocket, coins, change, I'm constantly checking the change in my pocket. If I go into a shop and I'm buying something and I know the exact price and I'm paying with cash, I will check in my hand to see that I've got the right change. I'll put the change in my pocket and then I immediately have to check again to see if it's still the right money, which is crazy, but obviously that's obsessive because I know the money in my pocket is the right money because I just put it there, but I have to keep checking it, and I'll check it several times. And when I'm queuing up waiting to pay for items in a shop, I'll take it back out of my pocket again and check it several times before I hand it over. Another obsessive thing that I do is I check doors and windows quite often. If I leave the house, I'll lock the front door, lock the back door, and as soon as I've locked the front or back door, I have to check them again to make sure they're locked. And I turn around away from the front door having checked that it's locked, and I immediately have to go back and check it again. Crazy, but again, that's obsessive compulsive behaviour. Excuse me. Another thing that I do is I'm sitting in front of my bookshelves. I love my books. I'm a total bookworm. I collect books on Byron, the poet Byron. Byron is my great hero, and I collect a lot of books from the 1800s on the top shelf there. But the obsessive thing that I have with my bookshelves is that I have to make sure that my books are all in order of height. I also have to make sure when my books are on the shelves that my books are actually flush with the very edge of the shelf. Now I can actually feel one that isn't, so I'm going to push that back. I can't stand it if a book is kind of overhanging the edge of the shelf, and I can't stand it if the book is pushed in slightly so that the edge of the shelf is showing, so I go along quite often, and I just kind of feel like this, and that one is as well. So I'm doing it now because it's really annoying me. That one's overhanging, so is that one. There you go. So I can't stand it if my books are hanging over the edge of shelves, or the shelf is showing slightly, so they have to be dead flush and all in order. And as you can see, they're quite neat and tidy. Something that I have surprised myself recently is that I have been sort of collecting books obsessively, and because I've now moved home, I've had to get rid of a lot of my books, and I've given them all to charity shops. I always thought that I would never ever be able to give away any books, but I gave away, I think in total I gave away about 5 huge cardboard boxes stuffed full of books, which was great because, as I said, when I'm buying books I tend to get a little bit obsessive, and I found that there were lots of books on my shelves that I hadn't read and that I probably never would read, because I go into a bookshop or I go online and I just sort of, oh, I'd like that one, and I tend to buy slightly obsessively. So that's another couple of obsessions about things on shelves have to be neat and tidy and in line and in order. Otherwise I have to do it. A recent obsession that I had, and this started about 2 years ago, is I suddenly discovered on YouTube lots of people making videos about buying records, vinyl records for music, and I suddenly became kind of obsessed by the idea of listening to music on vinyl. Of course I didn't know it at the time, I know it now, but I didn't know it at the time that it became an obsession. So I bought myself a record player, an amplifier, some speakers, a CD player. I hooked them all up, and I just started buying lots and lots of records, second-hand records from shops, online, eBay, brand new records from Juno Records and Amazon and all over the place. And actually there are quite a few videos on my YouTube channel here of my records and my record player and my record shelves, and I now realise that was an obsessive thing, because I was on Amazon just clicking buying records that I didn't particularly want and I didn't particularly want to listen to, but I'd just buy them anyway, and it was an obsessive thing, obsessive compulsive I guess you call it. Again, when I moved home I needed to downsize, and I just realised that I didn't want these records. The obsession with buying records kind of vanished, and that's another thing with my obsessive behaviour. I get completely obsessed about something for a period of time, and I do it over and over again, and I overdose almost on whatever it is, and then all of a sudden it's like a switch goes in my head, and all of a sudden I don't want the things that I've been buying. I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm actually a minimalist, or I'm striving to be a minimalist, and I'm trying to live my life with as few possessions and as little stuff as I possibly can. So when I become obsessed by these things, it's very strange, because I just start buying all this stuff despite the fact that I don't want stuff. So yeah, I realised that all these records were things that I didn't really want, and I was looking on my record shelves. There were records in there that I hadn't even taken out of the plastic. I'd literally just bought them, taken them out of the box and pushed them onto my record shelves. But the switch flicked in my head and I didn't want the records, so I've sold them all. I sold them to somebody who buys them locally. Now obviously I've spent a lot of money on records over the last couple of years, and obviously the money that I got from the seller, from the guy that bought them, I lost money. I have kept some of the records that are valuable, I've bought some first pressings that I know are valuable. I've got some records that I bought that I know have already appreciated in value, so I'm going to keep hold of them and sell them in the future and hopefully make some more money back. But again, it's an obsessive, buying records was an obsessive thing. It was just, you know, I just had to have them. And I think watching YouTube videos of people in what's known as the VC, the vinyl community, didn't help, because I would watch videos of people showing their record collections, watch videos of people showing their record collections, and then I would immediately be, yes, I want that record, I want that record. And I would buy these records that people were showing, and I realise now that I didn't really want the record, it was just a part of the obsessive thing. But the records have gone. I'm trying to sell the record player and the amp and the speakers. So that, you know, as I said, I get these obsessions and I go crazy for them, and then there's a switch that goes in here, and I no longer want the stuff that I've bought. Another obsession that I had, and I still have, is with general routines during my day. For several years I became kind of obsessed with the idea of getting out of bed every morning at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock in the morning, and just starting my day. I don't, you know, it's a very strange thing. Just having this obsession, I've got to get out of bed at 5 o'clock. So I'd set my alarm every morning, 5 AM, be straight out of bed. You know, working on the internet and checking my share portfolio and doing stuff on eBay, and you know, I found myself doing stuff on eBay that I now know I didn't really want to be doing. But I would do it again obsessively, up at 5 AM, check my share portfolio, even though the stock market's closed at 5 AM. You know, and then start doing my work on eBay and stuff like that. And you know, it was fine at first, and but after a while, getting up at 5 AM, it drains you, and I became really tired and exhausted, and you know, I didn't want to get out of bed at 5 AM, but you know, I couldn't help myself. So I would try not to. So I'd switch my alarm off and say I'm going to get out of bed at 7, or at the weekends when I'm not working, I'm going to wake up at 8 or 9. But I would lay in bed at night not being able to get to sleep, because I knew that my alarm wasn't set for 5 AM and that I wouldn't be getting up at 5. So I would lay in bed at night not being able to sleep, and then I would have to get out of bed and put my iPod alarm on for 5 AM, and again, you know, the whole routine of getting up at 5 and doing the same thing over and over again just began, and that's obviously an obsessive thing. Yeah, you know, and just getting up at 5 just made me so tired and not very well, and started getting run down, but I had to keep doing it. It had to keep being done. And there were times even when I would be ill. I've had bacterial prostatitis, for instance, which is excruciatingly painful. But I'd still get out of bed at 5 AM and I'd be in a lot of pain, and I'd be kind of doubled up in pain whilst getting out of bed at 5 to do my routine, because not getting out of bed at 5 and not doing the routine made me feel like something bad was going to happen, something terrible. Again, at the time I didn't realise what I was doing was obsessive. It was just completely normal behaviour. Now, of course, I realise that that's completely obsessive behaviour. So yeah, you know, obsessive behaviour is so odd because you don't realise you're doing it until you're not doing it. And I have lots of other little things. You know, my writing desk, for instance, where I read and write, I like to make sure that all my pens are sort of put away and everything's clean and tidy and polished and stuff. So yeah, obsessive behaviour, it's just very odd. You know, you can tell yourself over and over again that the front door is locked, but it doesn't matter how many times you tell yourself that front door is locked. You have to go back and check it. It doesn't matter how many times you plead with yourself not to set your alarm to get up at 5 a.m. You have to set your alarm to get up at 5 a.m. Otherwise you think, you know, something catastrophic is going to happen. So yeah, that's a little bit about my obsessive behaviours. I have to say, since I went to the hospital at Prospect Park for my psychological assessment, and the doctor has put me on a course of antidepressants, anti-anxiety tablets called citalopram, I have to say that my obsessive behaviour since beginning citalopram has eased. I find myself being much more relaxed, much calmer, which is a result of the citalopram pills, because they're antidepressant, anti-anxiety, but when you read the literature and about citalopram, it also says they do help with obsessive thoughts. So hopefully, you know, the citalopram is lowered my obsessive behaviour, and hopefully if I'm on those for a period of time, they kind of snap me out of the habits and the routines. I'm waiting at the moment for the hospital to get back to me. I've actually got a doctor's appointment tomorrow at my GP to discuss a hospital letter. So hopefully that's going to be about counselling for my dissociative disorder and my anxiety. My dissociative disorder is, you know, it's still there. I'm still drifting off into other worlds and characters and personalities, daydreaming. You know, it's still there, but I'm managing to keep myself in the real world a little bit more than I have been. I've had to move home in the last 2 weeks. I think that has actually helped. I thought that I'd be incredibly anxious and incredibly worried and obsessive about moving home, but I think having to focus on downsizing all my possessions and moving into a new place, I think that's actually helped, because it's really focused my mind on doing that. Now I'm kind of more focused on exploring my new surroundings and riding my bike and stuff, so that's helped. But the obsessive behaviour is still there. I still sort of like to do certain things. I like to have my breakfast at a precise time and have my pot of morning coffee at a precise time. My books on the shelves are still perfectly in line and neat and tidy. The papers on my writing desk and the envelopes and my pens and writing paper are still there. But certainly the citalopram has eased my obsessive behaviours a little. So I hope if you've watched this video, I hope that me explaining a little bit about obsessive behaviour, if you have obsessive compulsive behaviours, you just need to know that you're not alone, that lots of us have them. Lots of people have habits and things that they like to do over and over again. That's not actually obsessive compulsive behaviour. Obsessive compulsive behaviour is when your habits and your routines actually become so important to you that they start to affect your daily life. Most people get out of bed at the same time in the morning and make their breakfast at the same time and probably have the same breakfast every day. That's not obsessive compulsive. If you feel that if you don't have the exact same breakfast at the exact same time, if you feel that something terrible is going to happen or something bad will happen if you don't do that, that's obsessive compulsive. If you have any of these thoughts or feelings, please go and see your GP, because the earlier you can catch obsessive thoughts, the easier it is to treat them. And it is actually quite easy to treat in the early stages with a course of anxiety, antidepressants, maybe if your obsessive behaviour is in the further stages, you can have counselling. But if you have any of these things, please see your GP, get some help early on, and you can overcome these things, as I hopefully am beginning to overcome now. So I'll wrap the video up because I've already been speaking for 20 minutes and I don't want to bore you for too long. If you've liked the video, please click like, please subscribe to my channel, please leave any comments underneath the video, because I'd like to know that there are other people who perhaps are getting something from my videos. Any encouragement that you'd like to leave me is fantastic, as I said before. So please leave comments, subscribe, click on like, so that I know these videos are, being enjoyed. And if you have any mental health problems, please, see your GP, because they will help. There is help. There's no condition really that you can't receive some form of help for. Talk to people, be honest about how you're feeling, how you're thinking, and just know that there are people like me out there who are going through the exact same thing, and you can get help. Even if you feel, even in your darkest moments, if you feel so bad that you feel life doesn't have much for you, life does have something for you. Life is worth living. So talk about it, get help from your GP, leave comments for me, ask any questions, and I hope you're okay, and I shall see you again very shortly. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers. School and the support of complete strangers who have never met me or spoken to me or anything. So if you are somebody who's watched the first video and sent me a message of support, thank you. Really, genuinely thank you. It's meant a lot to me. So anyway, obsessive behaviour. I have some obsessive behaviours. They don't cause me a huge amount of problem, but they have been escalating, I guess, over the last couple of years. I have quite a number. I do things like, if I've got some money in my pocket, coins and encouraging words, I wasn't expecting it. When I made the video, I didn't think many people would watch it. Not a great many people watch my videos anyway, so I wasn't sure what kind of response it would get. But it's had the first video's had a wonderful response, and lots of people have sent me very kind and encouraging words. I've been been overwhelmed by the support of some people that I used to go to school with that I haven't seen since I left. Morning folks, it's Mark here. This is a second mental health vlog. It's a cold, damp, dreary morning here in Reading in the southeast of England, so wherever you are in the world, I hope it's a little bit nicer weather for you. I hope you're fit and healthy and well. I'm going to be talking in this video a little bit about obsessive behaviour and the kind of obsessive behaviours that I have that go along, I think, with my dissociative disorder. Obviously my first mental health vlog was all about my assessment at the mental health hospital and about being diagnosed with dissociative disorder. I'll put a link on this video to my first video in case you haven't seen it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about obsessive behaviour, but first of all, I'd like to say a massive thank you to all of the people who have responded so kindly and generously to my first video and sent me messages of support. Change. I'm constantly checking the change in my pocket. If I go into a shop and I'm buying something and I know the exact price, and I'm paying with cash, I will check in my hand to see that I've got the right change. I'll put the change in my pocket, and then I immediately have to check again to see if it's still the right money, which is crazy, but obviously that's obsessive, because I know the money in my pocket is the right money because I just put it there, but I have to keep checking it, and I'll check it several times.